Yep.
I truly thanks to the Bitcoin and censorship resistant technology, because before, maybe like 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, there was no Bitcoin. And if you live in a dictatorship and the authoritarian country, I mean, you didn't have a choice. Now there's an option.
Yep.
There's an option. So
Yeah.
thanks you, Bitcoin, on behalf of billions of people.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are here tonight with actually our first guest from Asia on the podcast. We've interviewed a lot of people from Africa, from Latin America, from Eurasia, from Turkey. But we have with us tonight Win Ko Ko Aung from Myanmar. It is a pleasure and an honor to have him on the podcast. He is a very busy individual, so we very much appreciate his taking out some time to speak with us. I'm going to give a quick introduction of what I know about Win, and then I'm going to hand the mic over to him so that he can tell us a little about himself. Win Ko Ko Aung is a McCourt Scholar in a program for, I believe, data science and public policy at Georgetown University. He's a contributor to Bitcoin Magazine. I believe he has also authored a book on his own. He's a lawyer, from what I understand. You have a law degree. And you are an advocate, generally speaking, for how technology, especially Bitcoin, can bolster human rights. So again, thank you so much for joining us. And please introduce yourself and fill in any gaps that I missed there.
All right, friends, nice to meet you finally. It's been, I think, about 3 weeks, right? We've been back and forth, having a conversation, and it's cool. Thank you for having an opportunity to have a conversation, in your channel, in your platform. And as I said before, I'm from Burma, and my name is Win, like a winner, because sometimes I talk to somebody, they thought like win, W-I-N-G, win, like a win. So actually, it's no, my name is Win, like a winner.
Like victory, yes.
Like Victor.
Cool, yeah.
So I came from Burma, and I grew up in Burma as well. So I was not born poor, and also I was not born rich. So I grew up just like a regular Burmese kid. I went to government school, and I went to government university. And actually, I'm not a good student, but somehow I managed to graduate with law degree at the end of the day. So it was back in 2013. So we are right now in 2023. So it's kind of like 10 years ago. So I know I look young. I look young. So and I think our generation, especially in Myanmar, is very fortunate to see, to witness, to experience the biggest transformation in Myanmar history. Because I had experience growing up with limited electricity, limited internet, limited limited freedom overall, limited freedom, limited infrastructure, limited economic opportunity. Everything is limited. So I grew up with a limited living limited lifestyle, maybe limited addition. And then in 2010, Myanmar has historically something changed. I was just kind of like the time 18 years old kid, in 2010. So what's going on? I see a lot of, at the time I was studying English, so I follow English media as well. Oh, that's super cool. So our country is transforming. Aung San Suu Kyi, who has been in house arrested for 20 years, she is being released. So that's great. And a lot of international companies, that I only heard on the internet, or Hollywood movie, came into the market, Myanmar market, coming into the market. And telephone SIM card, before 2012, 13, telephone mobile SIM cards are extremely expensive. It's basically 1,200 something just to get a SIM card. At the time, in 2009, Myanmar GDP is only $600 a year, and your mobile SIM card numbers is like 1,000. Mobile SIM cards 1,200. So it's kind of like it's double than average Myanmar citizen. What can earn in a year. So it's incredible change. Like 1,200 to within a few years opening the Myanmar to the international market. The price dropped to just like $3.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
insane, right? So everybody get connected, everybody get internet. Not everybody, like almost everyone get internet because like I'm just a regular kid in Myanmar, and
Mhm.
basically, I could not able to afford for my personal number. So we getting we getting like a personal number, we're getting a personal internet. At that time, internet was like kind of like a stay expensive, like mobile data internet is kind of like relatively expensive, but I mean it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing, and we get to see the world much faster. And I witnessed that digital transformation back in like 2013. So usually in my country, there's only two choices for a lot of young people. Majority of like middle class and middle class and below. So basically, you either go abroad or you stay here and just try to get by, or like start a restaurant or some sort of like traditional business. So that's the only way. That's a bet. In my generation, something is happening. Something
Yeah.
is happening. So international company came in, like internet companies like Rocket Internet from Germany. They came to the market. Telenor from Norway, Ooredoo from the Middle East. So that was amazing. So okay, and I decided to stay in the country instead of like going abroad, because I wanted to be a part of the historical change. And also like United States president at the time, President Obama, historically visited to Myanmar,
Yeah.
not only one time, twice.
Twice, right?
So it was amazing time. And then yeah, so I decided to invest my 2017 in the country. So later, first forward, like 8 years,
Could,
2020, I
do you mind
became
it?
I
Do you
yes,
mind if I interrupt? And I really don't mean to interrupt. This is super interesting. I just want to give a little context for the listeners. So
right.
I just want to quickly, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So Myanmar, which was formerly called Burma, it's been in a bit of a state of conflict since as far back as 1948. And in 2010, if I'm not wrong, is when it transitioned to a democratic government. I think you've called it like a quasi-democratic government, but more
Mhm.
of a democratic government. And that's when a lot of these technological changes started to occur. And that's when Myanmar started to sort of open itself up to the free market. Is that a fair summary or is that a fair synopsis?
Right. That's correct. That
Okay.
absolutely correct. So 2020 and then 2021, there was a huge political change. Hit Myanmar as well, but this
Mm-hmm.
time it's a kind of like a opposite story. It's a dramatic opposite story. In 2010, yes, I mean, like we're not perfect. Like everything is not perfect in this world. As Myanmar transformation was not perfect. There's a lot of controversy, and a lot of injustice also included in the transformation. But in 2021, there was a military coup happened. Basically, they arrested or like elected Myanmar officer, and then uprising, people uprising occur. At the time, I became like a best-selling author, and I was a sort of like a public figures among Myanmar young people. So
Oh.
I initiated I initiated civil disobedience movement campaign, anti-military coup campaign, throughout the journey, using my
Mm.
social capital on social media and also offline activity as well. So basically, both online and offline. And a few weeks later, I found myself in the wanted list by the Myanmar military on television, their newspaper, and some police station. And with my real name and my national identity and my address. So I mean, I only have two choices. either you stay here or you go yourself safe first to continue the journey.
Yep.
So I decided to choose the second option, and I crossed the border illegally and got to Thailand through 10-hour journey in the jungle. And the thing, yeah, so there's a kind of like a Bitcoin thing is interesting, so basically at the time they put me on the wanted list. At the same day, all my personal bank account has been frozen.
So I know that you've written about this. You've written about how dissidents and activists had their accounts frozen. I did not know that you were one of them. So you had your bank account frozen by the military dictatorship.
Right. So yeah, that's not only one, like multiple people, like thousands of people,
Wow.
either like you are a wanted person or like kind of like you support like donation, a donation support to some sort of activists or, and also like, exile government, so they can track it down. They can use this sort of legacy financial system as a weapon to oppress people, to stop the revolution activities. So, but I was very fortunate to have a like a Bitcoin and cryptocurrency at the time. Yeah, you're not hearing it wrong. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency at the time, not only Bitcoin.
That's okay.
You're not hearing it wrong. So because I just invested in all these type of like cryptocurrency just for like investment purpose, right?
Okay.
So that moment actually orange paid me. Because I got to understand that, oh my gosh, they can block your bank account, they can freeze your bank account, they can, monitor what's going on your personal traditional banking, because they are all under their radar, right? But these kind of cryptocurrency plus Bitcoin is something different, something unique. They can control and is true decentralized. So so I got a chance to like convert some of my Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and stablecoin when I get to the bank hall, and then I started learning about it, cryptocurrency. Yeah, you're not hearing wrong. Cryptocurrency at the time.
That's okay.
Yeah, later on, I get to know that, okay, there's only one sort of digital currency that can stand out for next 100 years, because they have no CEO, nobody can change like monetary policy unless majority of people, participate and willing to change. And, no, like a true decentralization and limited supply. And so, that's why, that moment I became a true like Bitcoiner.
So it's interesting though. Stable coins, I think, are interesting. I have mixed feelings about them because of the blockchains that they run on. But some people, including Alex Gladstein, talk a little bit about how stablecoins are also important. Just for the listeners, could you give your opinions? I mean, to give some context, being able to have access to US dollars via the internet, tokenized versions of US dollars, is something that some people want. But could you just explain to the audience the difference between stablecoins and Bitcoin? Most people will already understand this, but just to clarify.
Definitely. I mean, for people in like in Western countries or developed countries, like they have some sort of social safety net actually. So probably like, for example, like they could invest in a Bitcoin. Okay, what if Bitcoin down? I mean, does that matter? Maybe as long as they don't sell the Bitcoin, they hold it. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, right? But in developing world, the living condition, lifestyle, and economy is a different situation.
Yes.
Totally opposite, because most people, they trying to get by and like, they try to put food on the table and, roof over their head at the end of the day. According to the World Bank report, like about 50% of Myanmar population now live under poverty. So, it's kind of like we have like a 51 million people. So it's about like 25 million people struggling to get by every day. So I think, majority of some other people in developing world and global south are the same way, right? So that's why Bitcoin is important, but stable coin also as similar important as a Bitcoin, because stablecoin, they patch to the US dollar, and but at least like they kind of like stabilize, right? So if people hold it and something urgently they need to use like next week or tomorrow,
Right.
they could easily like convert to fiat currency, or maybe they could transfer from one place to another. Maybe they wanted to donate some like a revolution activist. They wanted to donate guerrilla warfare, and it's instantly, nobody asks you permission, right? So
Right.
you just say, like, because in Myanmar, people, like majority of people use Binance, and I guess like Binance the only way to Binance say Bitcoin plus cryptocurrency. So it's like a just 3 second shoot, and suddenly you receive, from like Yangon to anywhere. Yangon is a capital city. Yangon to anywhere, as long as you have connected to the internet, and as long as you have access to either mobile phone or computer. So because like in developing world, people have to use the stabilized currency, because they they have to put food on the table for tomorrow.
Understood. So a few things you said, a number of things I would like to unpack there. One, you have written about currency debasement in Myanmar. So the local fiat currency, which I believe, give me 1 second, I have it as a note here. I think right now it's called the Myanmar Kyat note.
Mhm.
There has been major issues with debasement for decades, but particularly, I believe, since 2021. So could you give a little bit of a context or some context to the audience on what debasement looks like? So for example, in 2 years, how much has the cost of like preparing a meal gone up, like rice and or meat or something like that? How much have those costs, or the cost of shelter, have they increased dramatically in the last 2 years?
Oh, definitely, definitely. The problem is, yeah, I mean, people in the United States, like they complaining, like inflation rate, 7% annual inflation rate. I mean, yeah, it's supposed to be, because like it's historically high, and controllable, rapidly, rising
Yep.
everything, including rent. But in developing world, it's getting worse. It's getting worse, and I believe it's our control. Like before 2021, it was like we had a coffee, like it's just about $1, and the latest updated coffee price, what I heard, and what I received the news from people inside Myanmar, like my friends, they told me it's like within 3 years, $1 coffee now costs $7, around $7 in USD. So bad. The problem is your salary remain the same.
Yes.
There's a lot of factor like contributing to the inflation and currency debasement. Because like including United States sanction, a lot of Western company, international company, they step back from the Myanmar market, and employment level record high. So, and also like United States also like strictly like imposing international sanction on the Myanmar military junta as well. Which make them have like losing their USD in their disposal. So that's also the thing. And the other thing, like they are now making illegal to the US dollar
To use the US dollar.
to use the US dollar. Usually in developing world, as you know, like people store their work as like either land, car. Yes, car is like sort of like property in my country.
Yep.
And US dollar, of course. So but now, like if you have some sort of like a US dollar on hold, that will be a huge problem. A huge problem with your local administration officer or Myanmar military, if they know. So they are also actively like detaining currency exchange business as well, because they wanted to exchange Myanmar kyat and USD valuation, but unfortunately they could not able to make it, and it's going down. And this is our control. This is our control situation.
I appreciate all of this information. I just want to help the audience maybe understand it and digest it a little bit. So I want to go back to one thing also. So I think it was under Biden that we put sanctions on Myanmar, and this was when the military junta took place in February of 2021. Just very quickly, what does the United States imposing sanctions on a country do to the country more broadly, but what effect does that have on the local currency? Or does it have an effect on the local currency? Do people? I'll leave it there. What, or just in general, what effects does it have when the United States imposes sanctions on a country, a smaller country,
Right,
especially like Myanmar?
right. Definitely, it will impact. I mean, not only to the like Myanmar military, but majority of people, especially getting impacted vastly negatively because but the problem is the problem is like Myanmar people, like majority of Myanmar people against the Myanmar military, but the problem is like United States sanction largely impact to everyone equally, indiscriminately, and
Interesting.
impacted. So that is something we cannot control. I grew up living under the country that under the United States sanctions. So I completely understand that. And I hope in the future, United States have more and better policy than imposing sanction on the on those type of dictator, because yeah, of course, it is effective, but also it's vastly impacted to average Myanmar people, like
It hurts
entire
people,
population.
right? Very, yeah. I've lived in countries where the U.S. has imposed sanctions on them, and I've seen some of the damage it's done. It's a very difficult situation, and I'm sorry that people do have to suffer as a
Mhm.
result of that.
Right.
Mike,
I hope they go have a like a better policy
maybe more
in terms
nuanced.
of yeah posting a sanction. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, you talked a little bit about when the internet was created, people thought it was only for like scams or pornography or something like that. And you talked a little bit about how people don't necessarily like they misunderstand something like Bitcoin in the same way. Are
Mhm.
people starting to understand something like Bitcoin now in the face of more currency debasement sanctions? Are they starting to understand it out of necessity or not necessarily? And if so, what percentage of the people are understanding it?
Yes, I think understanding of Bitcoin is an evolution process, right?
Okay.
So even in the United States, a lot of people, stay skeptical on this technology, um, brought off brought up wide variety of demography and people living in different geography and people and different demography. And in the Myanmar, it is the same way. It is the same way goes. But through my experience, I believe Bitcoin adoption in Myanmar is like internet adoption in 2007,
Okay.
2006, 2007, because like 2006, 2007, like uh fewer than 0.1% of Myanmar people use the internet, which is basically
Wow.
like lower than North Korea,
Yeah.
lower than North Korea.
Wow.
So I was fortunate to grow up in Yangon, which is the largest city in Myanmar, and I live like not far away from the internet cafe, so I got a chance to use the computer and have a chance to see what's going on in the world with limited internet access, because like some internet website like they block some internet website due to the political censorship. But
Mm.
we know how to bypass as a kid. We know how to bypass as a kid. So but at the time, our parents, teacher, and our senior brother, sister, they told us not to go to the internet cafe, because like internet cafe is for like for a dating place. Hey, are you going to internet cafe again? Are you trying to look for a girlfriend on the internet?
Uh,
Or or maybe some other people say, oh, people going to the internet cafe, like just to watch for a pornographic video. What are you going to do?
mm,
And so, but actually, all these misinformation, came directly from the Myanmar military at the time, because they intentionally brainwash parents, teachers, senior, like kind of like a university student, because like culturally, traditionally, we live under their control, right? Traditionally, so if we basically, they say not to do it, we must obey. We must obey to like what our parents, guardians, or elder brother, sister say. So
Yep.
this is tradition. So, but I and my friends are some sort of like unique kid, at the time, unique kid. So we do the opposite. We did the opposite because we felt, something, very important is the opposite of oppression, opposite of censorship. So
Yep.
we dig into the internet, and yeah, so yeah, I feel, Bitcoin is at that level, because I talk to a lot of people in Myanmar. I mean, they stay skeptical Bitcoin at same level as people, average American in here. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
but I think it's kind of like an evolution process, right? Bitcoin is kind of like an evolution process. Maybe we now in the early stage, so
Yep.
we're going through it, because like I also witnessed the social media adoption as well. Social media adoption in Myanmar as well, like during 2013, 2014. At the time, people say, "Oh no, don't use the Facebook," especially to like their daughter, girls, because there were a lot of scammer. Don't meet, uh, do not meet people from the internet, like especially Facebook. Do not post your opinion or your photo on Facebook. But now, like, most people nowadays, like, it's completely reversed. 10 years later,
Right.
right? Fast forward 10 years, people meet on the internet first and then meet offline. So
Yeah.
it's reversed. So, like traditionally 10 years ago, like back in old day, a decade ago, people initially meet offline, and
Yep.
then they became friends, or like they trust each other, and then go to the online, go to the internet. So today is a reverse. So I think Bitcoin is where follow that, phrase of adoption, and everyone in the world, either in the United States or Myanmar.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. Yeah.
That's a great parallel. I was thinking about this too. I've read about you talking about when you first discovered the internet and how it opened your mind to music and everything else. When people think about the internet by 2007, or around that time,
Mhm.
we were already very used to it here in America. How did
Mhm.
that change your life? What are some specific memories you have of being exposed to the wider world through the internet? Like what are some of the things that come to mind when you think about those early times using it?
Right. It was super cool. Super cool. Yeah, I used to play a lot of flash game. On the internet, because it was my first experience. Oh, that's so nice. I can play thousands of games. Just instantly. Not instantly, actually. We need to wait like 15 minutes or something just to get play on the game, because the internet connection is
Slow.
extremely slow.
Oh,
Extremely
okay.
slow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then yeah, Google Talk. At the time, there's a Google Talk, right? So right now, like today, like maybe Generation Z will not get what Google Talk is, but back in our time, Google Talks are amazing. We can check a lot of people. I still remember, we exchange uh, our crash Google Talk account each other,
Okay.
and then, well, we can say hi them on the internet. So it was like, it was, yeah, so funny. Yeah, I also got to see the other side of the Myanmar at that time, other side of the, especially Burmese language Western media, such as like Voice of America, Democratic Voice of Burma, stuff
Mm.
like that, through
Int-
using virtual private network.
wow.
So yeah, that was, and then it is enlightening experience, because usually these websites are blocked in Myanmar, and nobody also talk about it as well. But somebody, like one of my classmates, his family was an activist, so he talked about it. Hey, our country is in that kind of situation. They, like, that the government's oppressed. in like Upper Myanmar region, sort of like that. Every time we went to the class, we went to the after school class. So I had that friend. So he opened my eyes. And one day when I got to the internet cafe and there's nobody in the internet cafe center, and I started to search all about it. And I read it, but I just had a kid. Oh, okay, I read it. Oh, that's happened. That's happened, but that's not in my city. That's not a problem. And I just kind of like okay, I got it. Then I skip it. And most of the time, I was trying to figure out, how at the time Yahoo Forum. I'm not sure you remember it. Yahoo Forum is pretty much popular. And yeah, I explore how Facebook work, and even I still remember I got to meet with a lot of people from other countries, Thailand, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and I have never seen like kind of like a foreigners before. Not really, like not that really close,
Yeah.
So it was really good experience actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I admire your sense of adventure and curiosity. You're a very you want to learn, and I think, and I'm happy that something like, especially for someone like you, that the internet exists to be exposed to something, to be exposed to ideas, to different cultures, to different ways of thinking. I didn't really see that initially when the internet was created. I luckily grew up in a place, I grew up right outside of New York City. I still live in New York City, so I had exposure to a lot of ideas and things. But when you live in a place, like you said, where there's a lot of repression, information is censored, it's a very different experience. So I actually find that it's really amazing that you were so curious and that it led you to such interesting places. And from what you said, I believe you learned a lot of the English that you know from that, which I find amazing, truly, truly amazing and inspiring. Especially, I used to be a language teacher. I taught immigrants in the United States for about 10 years. I want to zoom in a little bit again on Bitcoin and activists. You brought up activists, and I know that from what I've read, the government, the current government of Myanmar, has talked about either imprisoning or fining people who are using Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. What is people's response to this? Are they using them regardless? Meaning, are they just like, look, this is our lifeline, we need to use them, or we believe in it and we're going to take that risk? Or do people take heed of these threats from the government?
So there are like two type of like two group of people using cryptocurrency plus Bitcoin. So first, economic financial focus group. So they basically like they're rich in cash. They there's a lot of rich people in Myanmar. Like most of them, live in the central Myanmar. They own a lot of land, real estate, like resources.
Got you.
But and also like hotel and tourism as well. But the problem is now nobody can and visit Myanmar, especially people who was willing to spend like with the support of United States dollar, privilege. So they not coming. Most people are not coming to Myanmar. So people coming to Myanmar are from like kind of like less purchasing power countries, right? So people, some sort of like developing worlds, right? Or now they're like promoting Chinese tourists to visit Myanmar, but Chinese tourists have their own way to spend in the local in Myanmar economy, as you might know about it. So the problem of these rich people in Myanmar is they have access, but they cannot generate cash with their current access, right? Their real estate value going down. They cannot liquidate it because nobody is willing to buy a real estate at the time, especially and also like hotel and tourism, and that tourism is completely broke now. It's completely broke. So the best thing they can do is jam into cryptocurrency, make it trading, and get profit out of it. So that's so that came into the shitcoin disruption in Myanmar. Shitcoin disruption, I would say, because like they disrupt in Myanmar economy. So especially and shitcoin. Oh, what's the popular on the internet? They going after all these like trendy new invented cryptocurrency with the hope of becoming a new Dogecoin or some sort of like satisfied, certain bullish,
Yeah.
So that kind of mentality, they like a huge community as well. They playing really, overground. They really playing in the underground. Some people like me probably were connected with Myanmar military officers. So bribe, giving bribe is
Okay.
not
Got you.
illegal in the country right now. So giving bribe is not illegal in the country. So so they got it, and they are like shaking the hand with some shitcoin distributor, shitcoin promoter in the country.
Got
So
you.
this is
Got you.
they are the group of people. There are other group of people that using a stable currency, stable coin and Bitcoin
Bitcoin.
as their lifeline, and supporting and exporting this idea into revolutionary group
Yeah.
and guerrilla warfare group, because they had a first-hand experiences, because they had to move under the ground to fight against the military, and we, and so the cryptocurrency, especially stablecoin, is the safest and stable to liquidate, to use as a medium of exchange for
Got it.
tomorrow.
Okay. Got it. That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
When you
And also
talk
like
about
easy to carry, right? Easy to carry all around,
yeah,
and nobody can check your your belonging,
that's
your
right.
access. So
Yeah, you can keep your seed phrase in your head if you
right,
really
right,
wanted to
right.
be
Seems
careful.
free, and Bitcoin is still like, I mean, very early stage, as I said, like as early as like internet in 2007, because for normal people, they have a most people don't have a disposable income to
Yep.
participate in Bitcoin economy,
Yep.
unless they have something sort of like a Bitcoin job. They have
Yeah.
something sort of like a Bitcoin job, or job that earn with Bitcoin.
Do
But the problem is,
Mhm.
first, Bitcoin is an illegal currency in Myanmar,
Right.
according to the Myanmar military. Second, the price volatility. Yeah, we understand that Bitcoin technology, is very it has a brighter future. It has a great future ahead. But for people in developing world, they don't have a like privilege to hold
Right.
Bitcoin for the long run. So that's one thing. And
Right.
the other thing, as I said, okay, if they even earn Bitcoin, how would they survive, right? So,
Hmm.
so that's kind of like a chicken and egg issue, and then I hope Bitcoin application, Lightning Network, they will bring up more user friendly, experience
Yes.
application to the country, and they would definitely check that out, and they would definitely consider alternative solution,
Yeah.
because demographically majority of people in the country are younger generation. They really have a like obsessed with the technology, but the current like threat is like disposable income and Bitcoin job opportunity,
Yep.
and then yes, so but and also like maybe like education as well, maybe probably like education as well,
Yeah.
because I've seen like according to my observation, people stay getting like kind of like try to get clear between Bitcoin and some other cryptocurrency at the moment. I think that this is also a process. This is also kind of like a
It's a
thought process,
process.
right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Everyone can do it this way, and because like I was once also there, like Bitcoin plus shitcoiner, but now like I'm completely a Bitcoiner. So it is a process, and it takes time. Another issue is, in order to get Bitcoin education, in order to get Bitcoin education, so why would they invest? Why would they invest in Bitcoin education rather than vocational training,
Right. Exactly.
English
Right.
language or Japanese language, Thai language, which could secure their future,
Right.
which could easily could secure their future, and kind of like immediate, sensible, tangible,
Yes.
like path forward, right? Bitcoin, I mean, we understand it, but it's like 10 years from now, it's gonna be huge in the world. But developing world, people don't have that such a luxury and resources.
Yep.
So this is something, I always talk to the like a global Bitcoin developer, and to consider that fact, because like most people once they like advocate in Bitcoin, I really admire them, but they need to check their privilege and see beyond developer, because
Yep.
billions of people live under completely different lifestyle, completely different economic situation, completely different maybe regulation framework.
Yep.
So if we could also improve user experience and a friendly, simple like application, that could definitely work, and that could benefit to the people living in developing world. I mean, as simple as Facebook, as simple as Google.
Right. I think you make excellent points. And then the other hurdle with Myanmar is that the government isn't permitting it. So it's hard enough in the developing world to learn about this when the government is relaxed enough to let people do it. Like I've spoken with people from Namibia and from Ghana, and both of their governments are open-minded about Bitcoin. They haven't said that they love it or they want to support it, but they're open to it. When you talk about the difficulties then of people needing to be educated, but the government not allowing that education to take place, not allowing people, trying to stop people from educating each other, that adds a whole different dimension of difficulty to the situation, because then it's
Well,
beyond
actually, government's not happy to have like a Bitcoin education.
right.
As of my understanding, of course, because it could undermine their
Their power.
authoritarian dictatorship,
That's right.
Oppression. But on the other hand, people also have a limited time resources to
Yep.
learn Bitcoin education. So
Yep.
that's another thing. That's another thing, because like learn if you have like a certain sort of time in your day, like 1 hour, 2 hour, would you learn if you live like an average Myanmar and living under like a around minimum wage, or even you make like $300, $400, which is kind of like a pretty decent amount.
Okay.
Would you rather spend your time learning Bitcoin, or would you rather learn something tangible that can, convert your education into generating fiat cash,
Income.
in 3 months or 6 months from now? Would you like to learn like programming, or would you learn Bitcoin? Would
Yep.
you like to learn English or some other language, or Bitcoin? People will choose tangible, less risk education resources over Bitcoin. So that's it. One of the biggest challenges in Myanmar in terms of Bitcoin adoption, and I'm also like oftenly discussed about this issue with global Bitcoin developer community leaders as often as possible.
Cool.
So we can bring that a solution to the developing world.
Yep.
That's not only to the Myanmar. If something's working in Myanmar, something could work in Africa,
That's right.
or some other countries like Afghanistan. Or if something's working in Afghanistan, it could potentially work in Myanmar and some other country as well.
Yeah, it's beautifully put. I want to end on a high note. I know you have a stop. Like I said, everybody, Win has a lot going on with his studies and everything else. And I want to end on sort of an actionable note, but I had one quick question first. What I was thinking is sort of what might incentivize people to learn is if they were to potentially use sites like microlancer.io, where you could do small tasks on the internet and get Bitcoin in exchange for it, things that you don't have to think too much about. Is that an option for people in Myanmar, or not necessarily, where they could just go to like a forum, subscribe to a newsletter, do whatever you need to do, get 100 sats? Are people doing things like that, or is that not necessarily happening?
Well, yeah, I mean, it could potentially, but I think another thing is the language barrier as well, I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
right, because like I mean, because like 90, maybe 99%, not even 99%, like 95% of Bitcoin education resources are in English, right?
Yes.
So I think localization is also important, which is like a group of Bitcoiner is creating to make it happen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's cool. That's really good to hear. I want to, like I said, end on a high note. So how do you think in your mind, and based on the discussions you've had with people that develop on Bitcoin, the people you've spoken with that you just mentioned, how does it help more people in Myanmar? Um, is it part of a broader solution? Obviously, I'm not of the mind that Bitcoin just magically fixes everything. I think it
Right,
fixes a lot, but people
right,
are
right.
still people, and governments are still governments, and we're going to need some sort of solutions. Tend to be multidimensional, and Bitcoin can be one of those dimensions. So, in your mind, how do you see Bitcoin fitting into the landscape in Myanmar? Um, does it help people get free? Does it help them potentially overthrow the existing government? Does it help the government in exile raise money? And I'm just putting ideas out there, but in your sort of dream, in your vision for how it could help, what do you think the path forward is, or what does it look like?
Right, right. I developed a Bitcoin bond policy for Myanmar exile government, and
Okay.
it has been published on Bitcoin magazine as well. And I try to reach out to Myanmar exile government multiple times to discuss about Bitcoin policy bond. Also, I have sent a English version and Myanmar version of the Bitcoin bond policy, which I published on a Bitcoin magazine. And unfortunately, I still have not able to get an opportunity to discuss with them. And
Okay.
hopefully I could able to get have a a discussion with them in the future.
That's
And this is
great.
one thing.
Could I just quickly,
Right.
just so that the audience knows what Win is referencing here is talking about, I think it's called the NUG.
Mhm.
It's the National Unity Government.
National Unity Government.
Government. So the NUG, which is in exile, he's talking about them potentially issuing a Bitcoin bond similar to what El Salvador is doing. So a bond based on the Bitcoin holdings that they have. I'm not going to get into how easy or complicated that would be, but just to clarify, I just wanted to give a little frame of reference for the audience there.
Right,
But
right,
please
right, right,
continue with what you were saying.
right. Thank you, appreciate that. And
No problem.
I think the immediate thing Bitcoin can impact in Myanmar is Bitcoin can replace either real estate or gold. And
Yep.
for I think even now, like it's going to have a positive transformation immediately. A positive transformation in Myanmar. It could help some sort of like a middle class people get into Bitcoin because a lot of people have experience getting blocked their bank account
Yep.
or their house getting seized by the Myanmar military because of the supported to like exile government or like the sort of like became a 100% sort of thing.
Yep.
So yeah, so they could immediately because like some people also like get to understand, get to the sense that oh my god, my property is not like secure in Myanmar. They get to understand it. So that's why like some people they move their worth in like in Bangkok, like real estate in Bangkok,
Got you.
and they offshored it basically. They offshored it, but some people are like studying because like they family based in Myanmar or they wanted to immigrate to their like some other Western countries. And if they like invested in Bangkok, like it's stay like kind of like a physical asset, right?
Yep.
It's not portability. So people get in that kind of sense. People get that kind of sense. So among them, maybe 1%, maybe a few hundred people, they will get a sense of the Bitcoin.
Yep.
I don't know. There might be some people. There might be some other people. They like trying to convert their property into Bitcoin,
I've heard.
not shitcoin. I hope so. I hope so. This is immediately people in Myanmar can get into the Bitcoin. But in order to get there, they must understand distinguish between Bitcoin and shitcoin because
Yeah.
if they get into the different currency, their wealth might be at the same risk as invested under the investing in Myanmar. So
Yep.
so that's my thought. That's my thought.
That's that's really fascinating, and I hadn't really thought about that too much. I interviewed Mauricio de Bartolomeo, who's Venezuelan. He runs Ledin, which is a platform where you could lend where you could use your Bitcoin as a collateral for a loan. And I used to live in Venezuela,
Mm.
coincidentally in the same city as him in Venezuela. We were there at the same time, which is odd. But he talked a little bit about about how back in the day, if you were middle class and you got a little bit of money, you would usually put that into real estate. But because of how unstable the situation in Venezuela is, he said, I think what most people are going to do now is buy like maybe half US dollars and half Bitcoin. And maybe not most people, but a percentage of people. And I think that that's interesting because Bitcoin, in my opinion, it's property. It's kind of like land in this, it's finite land in this digital space. But I think that that's interesting too, because what you're doing there is you're shorting the local market, which is making the situation sort of harder for the government to manage as well. You're shorting fiat and you're shorting the sort of banking system on a local level, which is it's like a vow that you're losing confidence in the system, which puts the onus back on the government to do something. Not saying they will do the right thing, but I never really thought about this until he mentioned it and you mentioned it now, that people might just say like, look, I'm not going to invest my money here. I'm going to invest it in something that is portable, that I can take with me if I do have to leave or if I do choose to leave. And I think that that's one of the most important things Bitcoin does for people around the world. That portability, the fact that you can memorize your seed phrase, take that with you anywhere in the world, or even write it down, that really changes the world, and it makes the jurisdictions that are most friendly to people who want to live freely the most appealing jurisdictions. And I think that as more people come to understand that, I think the world change where people choose to live or try to migrate to. I think that there's a lot of changes as a result of that. I don't
Yeah,
want to
I
keep
think
rambling.
education and user experience. Education and user experience is the kind of like most important
Yes.
sector to get Bitcoin adoption worldwide in
Yes.
this decade.
Yep.
I truly thanks to the Bitcoin and censorship resistant technology, because before, maybe like 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, there was no Bitcoin. And if you live in a dictatorship and the authoritarian country, I mean, you do not have a choice. Now there's an option.
Yep.
There's an option. So
Yeah.
thank you, Bitcoin, on behalf of billions of people.
Yes, that's a beautiful way to leave it. I'm going to end it there, but I really want to say that I was very impressed and motivated to reach out to you and to speak with you. I feel even more sort of inspired now that we've spoken. I think that you in particular, people like yourself, some of the people I think you met this past weekend at Bitcoin Park, people from the international community, are going to be remembered in history as people, as leaders that represent their country, their heritage, and that did a lot for the world in terms of education. But more importantly, were courageous enough to speak up and share what they understood, because I can't even pretend to know what it's like to be in your shoes, to speak out against the government of the country you used to live in. I can only imagine that it's stressful on a number of levels, and that it takes courage to do what you're doing and to cross the border into Thailand through the jungle. And I have to say that I very much admire the steps you've taken, literally and metaphorically. It's an honor to have you here to share your story with the people who listen to this podcast. And I very much hope the world continues to listen to you. I hope magazines like Bitcoin Magazine continue to publish your work. I hope Georgetown continues to support what you're doing, and the scholarship you have continues to support you as well. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you do. Just as you thanked Bitcoin, I thank you for what you're doing and the inspiration that you are, and I think will continue to be for many people.
Thank you, Frank.
My pleasure. I'm going to leave it there. Everybody, thanks for listening. We're going to let Win go. Hopefully we'll be able to do this again in the future, and we'll talk soon.